Well, I'm Elijah Westbrook, and welcome to our streaming presentation for the Mets home opener. We are just 7 games into the new season, and here's how things are shaping up. Currently, the Mets are 3-4 and sit third in the National League East standings. The Mets made some big moves in the offseason, and they seem to be paying off. Let's take a look. The Amazons have committed $500 million to players, including signing Brandon Nimmo to an 8-year deal. And they are getting one of the best arms in the league, 3-time Cy Young winner Justin Verlander. All right, let's go ahead and bring in Doug Williams. He is live right now at Citi Field ahead of today's game against the Miami Marlins. Doug, good to see you. So let's talk more about the team here. The Mets, they have a number of injuries to some major position players, as you know, including Justin Verlander. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, Elijah, I know you were here this morning. The energy is palpable. The Mets come into their opening day without that cliched clean start. You know, fresh, undefeated record of 0-0 like the Miami Marlins did when the Mets played in Miami on opening day. The Marlins now visit the Mets for their home opener, but as you said, 3-4 record. They're dealing with injuries, mostly in their pitching staff. Justin Verlander continues to rehab his way back. The Mets miss him. They paid him a lot of money to take the mound every 5th day. Edwin Diaz had his very, very notable injury in the World Baseball Classic. So they're missing their #1 starter and they're missing their closer. Now, the expectations are still high. They still have Max Scherzer in that rotation. Kodai Senga from Japan is a high-priced, very, very good starter at the top of any rotation. And position player-wise, Omar Narvaez is out. So they brought up Alvarez, their catcher prospect that they're very high on. They're not sure if he's going to be the starting guy just yet. You may see him DH a little bit. But yeah, expectations are high when you still have Pete Alonso, Francisco Lindor, and Brandon Nimmo in that lineup. And Nimmo was talking to reporters before opening day here at Citi Field this afternoon and said it really feels different being here, knowing that when he left after last season in their playoff loss to the Padres, he wasn't sure if he'd be back. He was going year to year through the arbitration process. Now he's got that nice long contract, and it feels different for him. So expectations are always going to be high, and Mets fans are always going to be a bit skeptical because it's in their DNA. But now that Steve Cohen is the owner of the team, now that they've proven after an offseason like the last one that they're willing to spend money and bring in these blue chip players, expectations are still very high.
Yeah, good point there. Expectations, certainly. And as we said before, the Mets are off to a slow start and have lost the last 3 games. They rank, and I hate to say this, 25th in the MLB for hitting and 22nd for pitching. Do you think that they have the ability to be that same 100-plus win team they were, let's say, last year, or are fans going to be in for another disappointment?
So I think in terms of their rotation, they're going to be set. I would not be concerned about that. It's early in the season. It's a long 162-game season. If Justin Verlander has to start the season on the injured list, so be it. You still have Senga, you still have Scherzer, and once Verlander's back, that's quite a punch at the top of the rotation. They do need somebody to step up, whether it's David Peterson or Tyler McGill, who's pitching this afternoon against the Marlins. Now, offensively, those concerns may be very real because the Mets didn't really add that impact bat this past offseason. They're relying on the guys who've been here to continue to lead this team offensively. And I'm talking about Lindor and I'm talking about Alonso. And Alonso had been really struggling so far this season. He had a mustache to start the year, shaved it, then hit a couple home runs in Milwaukee. We'll see if that turnaround continues this afternoon. But, you know, we're a long way from the trade deadline, and we're a long way from what should be real panic if the Mets continue to struggle as the month of April goes on. But I would think that come July, when the Mets are looking to add to their roster, they do need one more impact bat in that lineup. It's still a rock-solid roster. It's still a very good team, and I'm not sure I'd put chances of any team across the National League higher than the Mets, maybe other than the Braves, who happen to be in their very division.
Interesting. So we are about, a week into the new 2023 season with the new MLB rules in effect, and we've seen the changes both hurt and help the teams. While the game is faster, do you think that these rules could affect games, let's say, in big moments?
Well, I have to be honest with you, Elijah. So personally, I'm here at Citi Field covering a game for the first time since I covered the Mets and the Yankees for SNY for 7 years. And I was catching up with some of the reporters who were in the clubhouse earlier this afternoon before the game with the players. And they were saying there has not been, and granted, it's early in the year, there has not been a 3-hour or more game for the New York Mets this season. Now that ties directly to the pitch clock, and it has made for a more entertaining product. It's more action. It's an easier thing to just casually turn on your TV and watch a game if it's moving faster. That rule change may not be loved and adored by all pitchers and all players. It's an adjustment. You're going to see pitchers take too long. You're going to see batters take too long and a strike called on them. It's awkward when it happens, but eventually these players will adjust, and I think what we've already seen is a guarantee that a game like this afternoon, first pitch right around 1:10 p.m., you're pretty much looking at a guarantee that by 4 o'clock it'll be over. And with these new rules in place, it makes it an easier, more digestible watch for fans at home. Now, the larger bases, things like that, the lack of a shift, I think all of those things are designed to make the game more watchable. And that's been a problem for Major League Baseball for years. And I think so far it's working well.
All right, let's go ahead and talk about that stadium there behind you. So there are a number of new changes at Citi Field for this year, including a new scoreboard. Tell us more about that.
Well, it's the most jarring thing when you walk into Citi Field, Elijah, and it has one of those massive center field scoreboards that you're used to seeing in these high-tech, brand-new football stadiums. It's huge. Now, it's undoubtedly going to be a benefit for fans. You're able to watch the game even if maybe your view from your seat isn't great of the actual field or the diamond or the pitcher's mound. However, it's interesting that players and managers like Buck Showalter this morning are already being asked about the batter's eye. Now, what I mean by that is usually at most stadiums, including here at Citi Field, right in the middle of the view for any hitter is blacked out seats so that they're not blinded and can see the baseball well from in the box. A new massive scoreboard in the middle of center field at Citi Field may change the way wind comes into play. That's what Showalter was asked about. May change the way hitters can see the baseball at Citi Field and whether or not this is still a pitcher's park or if that changes this dynamic. But Steve Cohen spoke with reporters just before today's game in the Mets dugout and was talking about how he had just basically taken a tour this morning, saw the new changes, and talked about the scoreboard.
Well, I actually walked the stadium the first time I saw all the improvements. I mean, really great. I mean, really, interesting spaces. The fans are going to love it. And it's just the beginning, right? We're rethinking the whole ballpark. There's a lot more to come down the road, but I love the way it looks great.
Yes, I mean, you can tell, Elijah, that the owner himself is seeing these things for the first time. This is a new ownership regime, and that clearly doesn't just mean spending money and bringing in big new players and creating a team that's going to compete year to year. It means that if you're coming to the game as a Mets fan at Citi Field, there are going to be improvements as you walk around the ballpark.
Doug Williams with an amazing perspective on all things Mets. Thank you so much for your time and your expertise on everything. And thank you so much here at home or wherever you're watching, really, for tuning in today. There's a lot to be excited about this year for the Amazons, and we are all hoping this could be the year we return glory to the Big Apple. For all highlights from today's game, stay with CBS News New York.